Welcome back, everybody, to Ein Sof Learning. This week's Torah portion is Ki Tisa, which literally means when you take. And it is found in the book of Exodus, chapter 30, verse 11. The people of Israel are told to each contribute exactly half a shekel of silver to the sanctuary. Wise-hearted artisans, Bezalel and Aholiab, are placed in charge of the sanctuary's construction, and the people are once again commanded to keep the Shabbat. When Moses doesn't return when expected from Mount Sinai, the people make a golden calf and worship it. God proposes to destroy the errant nation, but Moses intercedes on their behalf. Moses descends from the mountain carrying the tablets of the testimony, engraved with the 10 Commandments. Seeing the people dancing about their idol, he breaks the tablets, destroys the golden calf, and has the primary culprits put to death. He then returns to God to say, "If you do not forgive them, blot me out from the book that you have written." God forgives, but says that the effect of their sin will be felt for many generations. At first, God proposes to send his angel along with them, but Moses insists that God himself accompany his people to the promised land. Moses prepares a new set of tablets, and once more ascends the mountain, where God reinscribes the covenant on these second tablets. On the mountain, Moses is also granted a vision of the divine 13 attributes of mercy. So radiant is Moshe's face upon his return that he must cover it with a veil, which he removes only to speak with God and to teach his laws to the people. So thank you to Chabad.org for their summary and ChatGPT for their artificially generated images. We're going to be talking a little bit about artificial intelligence in this week's class because we see that in this week's Parsha, there's the episode of the golden calf. Now, the golden calf was a device that the people of Israel built to kind of replace Moses, believe it or not. They were not trying to replace God. They were trying to replace Moses because they were standing and waiting for Moses to return from his trip to the mountain. And they miscalculated how many days Moses was away for. Because Moses said he would be back in 40 days. But they miscounted. The people thought that Moses had abandoned them, when in reality he was just coming back the next day. So, in the meantime, they panicked and they constructed an idol. Now, this idol was not just made of physical, inanimate, resources. Rather, it was a device that they were using as a replacement for the leadership of Moses, because there were magical properties or mystical, properties to this idol. Back in the day, idolatry was not, bowing down to stones and believing that the stone has power. Rather, they understood that all of these stones and all of these statues symbolize or represent different spiritual entities that exist in the upper worlds, like demonic forces or angels, that they could communicate with those entities through this device. And that's what idol worshiping is. It's whenever you rely on a creation to really be the source of your guidance as opposed to God. Now, Hashem is the creator of all of the idols. What makes idolatry idolatry? It's whenever you worship the creation. Whether it's an angel or a demon or artificial intelligence or science or yourself. Those are all creations, and that is the essence of idolatry. When you attribute independent power and authority to a creation. The same thing would apply, by the way, to a belief that a certain person is God. If a person believes that an individual human is God, then that is also idolatry. Because God is the creator, not the creation. So we worship and we direct all of our prayers toward the Most High, which means Hashem. Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's the only God that really exists. And all of the other powers and forces and entities that exist are lowercase g gods, in the sense that they are Elohim Acherim. They are other gods. And if you worship them, then you are committing the most vile sin in all of the Torah, in all of Judaism. It's not just about Judaism, it's in reality. The most vile sin in reality is idolatry. Also, there's murder and sexual immorality. These three sins, idolatry, adultery, and murder, make up the three gravest sins in the Torah, for which it's better that a person should die than to commit one of these acts. If a person puts a gun to your head and says, murder so-and-so person, it's better that they shoot you. It's better that you die than you murder someone else. God forbid we should ever be put in such a situation, but we know that throughout Jewish history, many have been placed in those situations. So it's good to know that it's better to put your life on the line than to commit one of these three acts: murder, idolatry, and adultery. Now, in this week's Parsha, Ki Tisa, it's one of the most intense and transformative portions in the entire Torah, because it's the Parsha of the golden calf. And not only that, it's the breaking of the tablets, because there are first tablets and there's the second tablets. The first tablets are destroyed, and after they're destroyed, Moses goes back to receive the second set of tablets. The scene is taking place at the mountain of Sinai. Mount Sinai is the same location that they received the Torah, and this was, of course, after the exodus from Egypt. They've already been redeemed from Egypt. They're wandering in the desert. God reveals himself to Moses on Mount Sinai, while the people dwell at the bottom of the mountain and they experience the oneness of God. God gives the Torah, or rather Moses receives the Torah from God. And the people of Israel are there and they're still waiting for Moses to come back down. They're still waiting for Moses to return from the mountain. He's been gone for 40 days and 40 nights, receiving the Torah directly from Hashem. But the people miscalculate when he's supposed to return. They expected Moses to come back down after 40 nights and 40 days. And they were correct, but they miscalculated the times. And for that reason, Moses came a day late, according to their own calculation. But before that he returned, the people panicked. Once the 40-day limit came, they didn't see Moses and they panicked. They believed that Moses had abandoned them. Instead of waiting patiently, they panicked and they constructed this idol to replace Moses. And in fact, they demanded that Aaron, the older brother of Moses, to construct this as well, meaning that he was part of the process of building this new God. And we see later that Aaron is actually punished for this as well. Now that's when they build the Egel HaZahav. The word in Hebrew for the golden calf is Egel HaZahav. The word Egel means calf. It's a baby cow. And the word Zahav is Hebrew for gold. So the golden calf. Gold also represents Gevurah. Gevurah is din, left column energy, which is desire to receive for the self alone. Gold represents the desire to receive for the self. Now, at that moment that they built this golden calf, everything falls apart. Not to mention that this isn't just any sin. This isn't just a regular, transgression. Rather, this is idol worship happening right at Har Sinai, meaning this is 40 days after that Moses receives the Torah. Not even 2 months pass. In the second month from the revelation of the Torah, they already begin to build this idol. And we know famously that those that built the golden calf are known as the Erev Rav. They are the mixed multitudes that came out of Egypt along with the children of Israel during the Exodus. A group of Egyptians that converted, so to speak. They converted and they became part of Moses' nation. Not God's nation, Moses' nation. And the proof for this is in Exodus chapter 32, verse 7, when God says to Moses, "Go, descend, for your people, whom you brought up out of Egypt, have become corrupt." So Moses is on the mountain with God. The people panic that Moses hasn't returned yet. They build the golden calf. So God tells Moses, "Go down from the mountain and look at what your people are doing." God didn't say my people. He referred to them as Moses' people. Who are these people? Is it not the Jewish people? Is it not the children of Israel? The children of Israel are God's people, not Moses. And from here we understand that the people who built this golden calf were not the children of Israel. The children of Israel did not participate in the construction of the golden calf. Rather, it was this group of Egyptians which converted and became part of Moses' people, and they eventually integrated and they became mixed in with the children of Israel, and they exist to this day. This group of people, these souls, the spirit of the Erev Rav still exists in the world today. They are the Jews who still have what to correct within themselves. There's an aspect of the Erev Rav in me. There is an aspect of the Erev Rav in you, assuming that the person who is watching this is Jewish. If you're not Jewish, you're not considered Erev Rav. Rather, we all have light and darkness within ourselves. But specifically, the darkness of the Jew, the darkness of someone from the people of Israel, is described as Erev Rav, the mixed multitude. They are described as Egyptians. Egyptians that have woken up and realized the truth of God. And they want to refine themselves. But it's hard because they're so used to the idolatry of Egypt. They were slaves in Egypt. And they witnessed the miracle of the 10 plagues. And they witnessed the redemption of the Jewish people. But they're Egyptian. Their character, their personality, their tendencies, their habits are Egyptian. They're into idolatry. That was the norm. That was their customs, their culture, the way they were taught, the way they are programmed. It's in their blood. It's in their mind. It's in their subconscious. They are idolaters. But they wanted to change and they converted. Perhaps they were sincere in the moment that they chose to transition into the nation of Israel. But the inspiration did not last long because 40 days later, it was them who built the golden calf. Not the children of Israel, but this group of Egyptians that realized that they want to be part of the winning team. They say it's very easy to take the Jews out of Egypt, but it is very hard to take the Egypt out of the Jews. So that's why God is telling Moses, go and see what your people have done, that they have built the golden calf. So Moses comes down from the mountain holding the tablets. The first set of tablets, of course. And he's holding them very tightly. These tablets were written by the hand of Hashem. They were not engraved by Moses' hand. They were engraved by the hand of God. And when he sees the people dancing around the calf, he smashes the tablets at the foot of the mountain. He destroys the idol, punishes the main sinners, and he goes back up the mountain to request forgiveness on behalf of the people. Look at the love of Moses, the compassion, the mercy, to the extent that he even he suggests that God remove his name from the Torah if he goes through with destroying this people. He said, if you're not going to forgive these people, for what they did, then blot me out from your book. And in fact, since Moses said those words, so it was. In one of the Parshas, in fact, it was last week's Parashat Tetzaveh, we don't see Moses' name. Moshe's name was in fact blotted out from one of the portions. In every other portion of the Torah that comes after Moses enters the scene, his name is there. But there is one parsha, only one, that his name is erased. And that's the fulfillment of the words of Moses, where he says, if you do not forgive these people, then blot me out from your book. Now, God does forgive them. But because the words of a righteous person are so powerful, whatever it is that he said actually was fulfilled. So, the 13 attributes of mercy are introduced in this week's Parsha. We've brought them up in 2 weeks ago, Parashat Truma, which was regarding the construction of the Mishkan. The tabernacle itself, the Mishkan, the sanctuary of God, which they would build, and the presence of God would descend to dwell among the people, represents the 13 attributes of God. We already explained this previously, that when a person embodies the attributes of mercy and compassion and patience and forgiveness, etc., you should see the list of the 13 attributes, they have constructed their inner sanctuary. The sanctuary is a metaphor for the inner character traits that a person must embody. If you embody the 13 attributes, you have built the Mishkan within yourself. And the presence of God can dwell within you. But if you haven't yet emulated those attributes, you haven't yet, improved your character, rather you are still a judgmental or jealous or, whatever other negative character traits that a person could have, like arrogance or impatience, etc., then you haven't yet built the Mishkan. You're still in the process, hopefully. You're in the process of building this Mishkan. So, for a person who has these 13 traits, he has the Mishkan and God dwells within him. A person who lacks these traits, he hasn't yet built the Mishkan, and unfortunately, the light of Hashem does not dwell within that person. That doesn't mean that God is not guiding them. Still, God guides a person from the way that the events unfold. The way that the events unfold in your life is the way that God is directing your course. But you have the power to change the course. Free will is the ability to change your course. The direction that you're going in. The direction. Now, free will has its limits. For example, I cannot choose to be a woman. I cannot choose to become a bird, to fly. I don't have wings. So free will has its limits. But I would argue that those are not examples of free will. The only true example of free will is your ability to direct your mind, your desires, in one of two directions: light and darkness. That is the beginning and the end of your free will. Making the choice. Am I going to be doing something good or something bad? The decision-making process of good and bad is where the free will is. Now, let's say I plan to commit something very evil. I think about it and I decide, I choose, I want to do something bad. I just did free will. Just by choosing it, that was the free will. Now, whether I'm actually successful in implementing that evil plan and that evil thought or desire, that's a separate subject. That has nothing to do with free will. The free will begins and ends inside of me when I make the decision of what I want to do. Now, the actual fulfillment of that desire is not in my hands. Hashem can control the circumstances to prevent me from implementing my plans. But I am still responsible for making the free will decision. Your free will ends when you pull the trigger. You cannot choose to take someone's life. Or rather, that's the only thing you can do, is to choose. But there's no guarantee that what you wanted to happen and what you thought was going to happen is going to happen. That's in God's hand. That's not in your hands. Now, the same thing applies the other way around. Let's say I have a good desire or a good thought. I want to give charity. I put my hand in my pocket, I take out $5, and I'm making my way towards the charity, to put the money in the charity, or to give it to the homeless man on the sidewalk, or whatever it might be. But lo and behold, something interrupts my movements. The person gets up and walks away, or whatever it is. I'm somehow blocked from being able to perform this act of charity. I chose within myself that I want to give the charity, but somehow God had different plans. He blocked me from being able to give the charity. Or I realize, I put my hand in my pocket to get money, and I realize, I don't have money. I thought I have money, but I don't have money. I put my hand in my pocket. I can't find a coin. I can't even find anything. You still get rewarded as though you gave the charity. Why? Because the intention, the thought, and the desire of giving the charity is the end of your free will. Whether you're actually able to do it is a separate subject, separate question, separate area. Has nothing to do with free will. But the choices that you make, the way that you direct your desires and your thoughts, that is where your free will really lies. So that's very important, because we see in this week's Parsha the corruption of the Erev Rav, that they chose to build this golden calf, but God allowed it to happen. It's very interesting. If the free will begins and ends in the choices that I make, then how come here God actually allowed for the golden calf to be built? If it was so bad and God didn't want it to happen, why did it happen? You want to say because people have free will? Yeah, but God could block it. We already explained. Yes, we have free will. We can choose to do evil, but God can block it. Why didn't He block it? Why did He allow it to happen? And you can't say because He didn't want to compromise free will. He blocks our free will in many circumstances. Why not here? Comes the Arizal, and he explains that this group of Erev Rav, their souls come from the holiest space in the spiritual worlds. The holiest place in the Adamic consciousness. They are the holiest souls that unfortunately Adam wasted their seed. Meaning wasted his seed. For 130 years, the Zohar explains, Adam wasted seed. He wasted seed. Whether it was through masturbation or whatever it was, he wasted seed for 130 years that he was separated from his wife Eve. Or Chava. 130 years wasting seed. That seed that was wasted contained the souls of the Erev Rav. And this group of Egyptian converts have been recycled. Their souls have been recycled throughout multiple generations. Generation number 1 was Dor HaMabul, the generation of the flood. Then there was the generation of Haflaga, the dispersion, when they built the Tower of Babel and God punished them by separating them into 70 different languages. Then there was the nation of Sodom. What happened there? They were the same souls. They were reincarnated in these 3 generations. Noah's flood, the generation of the dispersion, and the generation of Sodom. These were nations of wicked people, completely and utterly evil, that they decided that they want to rebel against God. They want to go against, the divine order. They want to uproot heaven. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to replace God, overthrow the king, and decide, we are God. We are God. And the same people were reincarnated into Egypt. They were in Egypt. And when Moses came to redeem Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, from the slavery, the souls of this group of Egyptians were awakened. How come these Egyptians decided they want to come out with Israel? Why not the other Egyptians? You want to say it was random? Some of the people, they recognized the Jewish people and Israel is the chosen people, and they realized, you know what? Let's join them. But it happened to be, nobody else saw it, or nobody else, it was luck. They didn't have the chance. They didn't have the opportunity. No. They had the chance. You have the chance. Any non-Jew that's watching this right now has the chance. Any Gentile, any Noahide. If you're a Noahide, you've already taken it. You've chosen you want to be part of the group. You want to be part of the winning team. You want to be redeemed. Enough with the games. You want to be connected to God. You want to be on the path of truth. That's what these Egyptians did. The Erev Rav, they decided, listen, I come from Egypt. My character, my personality, my habits, my tendencies are Egyptian. But I saw the miracles. You cannot tell me. I saw the truth. I know God is real. I know Israel is the chosen people. I know the Torah is true. You can't trick me. And we can all see it. But those that actually change, they don't just get inspired and then turn away. No. They are awakened to the realization that this is the truth, and they start to cleave to the correct path. Those Egyptians that took that path, made that decision to leave Egypt, their native land, and join this group of Hebrew slaves that were miraculously redeemed from their oppressors. Their souls come from the highest place in the tree of life. The tree of life is a depiction of the various levels that exist in creation. The higher the level, the purer the root, meaning the soul. The soul that comes from the higher spots on the tree of life, they are holy. They are very holy. Those that come from the lower spots, not so much. Now, how do you know if your soul comes from the highest spot or from what spot it comes? It has to do with the nature of your desire. What is your desire? Now, let's say you have a lot of dirty desires. Does that automatically mean you're rooted in the lower levels? No. Because if you have the willpower to change, then it will become revealed that you come from the highest level. The same way that the Erev Rav, they were into idolatry and immorality. You would think that they come from the lowest level. And it could be, that's where they fell. When Adam wasted the seed, He caused all of the holy souls to fall into the deepest level of impurity. That's why Noah's generation was so wicked. That's why the generation of the dispersion was so wicked. That's why the people of Sodom were so wicked. And that's why the Egyptian society was so corrupt. They are the descendants of the wasted seed of Adam. Holy souls that fell to the lowest levels. And Moses was able to recognize that. Moses saw that there was this group of Egyptians that they wanted to become good. They wanted to change. They wanted to be on the path of truth. And he led them out. He brought them out to become his people, which he's going to guide. And he is in the process right now. The Erev Rav still exists today. The Erev Rav are still in this process of tikkun. They need to be corrected. So, may we all merit to recognize the areas within us that need to change. Admit your flaws. Don't turn your head and avoid them. They're only gonna amplify. The more you delay your transformation, you're just amplifying it. You're making it harder for you. It's your free will. You choose. Now, if you're choosing right, Hashem will help you to choose right more often. A mitzvah leads to another mitzvah. But if you choose wrong, unfortunately, Hashem will guide you to commit another sin. Because you choose your course. That's the free will. But in the end, every single person needs to do teshuvah. All of Israel will do teshuvah. It's a prophecy. You cannot evade a prophecy. A prophecy of good has to happen. A prophecy for the bad can be cancelled. If you do teshuvah, you can cancel the negative decrees. But if there's a prophecy that's positive, for example, that all of Israel will return, which has been prophesied, which is promised in the Torah, that God will gather us. He will personally come and gather us from the nations. That has to be fulfilled. The way that that takes place is up to us. We can choose to try and push it off, in which case the process of returning will become increasingly difficult. It will still happen, but it will be difficult. Or you can choose to have the easy route. The easy route is still one of pain. It's still one of transformation. But it's a more direct way of getting to your destination. Imagine you have a GPS and you want to get to a certain destination. It gives you the route that you need to take in order to get there. But if you make a wrong move, you turn left when you were supposed to turn right, it adds a couple minutes to your trip and it reroutes. It gives you a different path. But the destination is the same, but you just caused 2 minutes to add to the trip. And you're going to lose more gas, use more gas, etc. You're wasting time. But sometimes we make mistakes that cost us 30 minutes. Sometimes we make mistakes that cost us hours. And God forbid, sometimes we make mistakes that cost us years. Sometimes we make mistakes that cost us lifetimes. So the GPS will reroute. But sometimes you can do a U-turn. The U-turn is teshuvah. And if you can do a U-turn, you can undo the damage that you caused. You can reverse it Not just that it's not negative. If you do teshuvah from love, you can transform the negative into positive. You can transform all of your past sins into merits, if it's done from love. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.